Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to a very special edition of the show. We've got two very special guests on here. We have vocalist Joy Strachan-Brain. Joy, hopefully I said your name correctly.
Yeah, slightly Strachan.
Strachan. Okay, even better. In the U.S., we tend to do the CH thing to the fullest, but I know a lot of times it's pronounced more like with a K. So very cool. And none other than drum legend Bev Bevan, of course, from The Move, ELO, Black Sabbath, ELO II, and of course, Quill. And that's kind of a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. Both of you are from a fairly newish band, Quill. It's been around for a few years. And you guys have a brand new album coming up. But before we talk about the album, thanks for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. Hope everything is well with you in the UK in these tough times we're going through here.
Yeah, it's beautiful sunshine, which is great.
Yeah, we're beginning to get straight now. We think, see the light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully. And how about you over there? Is things getting better?
Yeah, we're opening up quite a bit. I live in New York, and it's now, a lot of places you go, you don't have to wear a mask. I'm fully vaccinated, and more and more, businesses are opening. They're starting to announce a lot of concert dates and things like that. So yeah. I think we're 80% there. That's just a guesstimate,
right.
But it's been hot. I know you guys have had a lot of rain in recent weeks. I talked to a lot of people from the UK, and I know that I talked to someone just the other day who said, finally you got some sunshine after like 2 or 3 weeks straight of rain. So I'm pretty up on the UK weather these days.
Yeah, it's lovely now.
So let's start off talking a bit about Quill. You guys have a new album coming out called Riding Rainbows. Can you talk a little bit about the album, what folks can expect, and maybe for those who are really not, haven't been exposed to your music yet, can you talk a little bit about the band, what you guys sound like, how you got together, and how you came to kind of put together this really interesting music that's kind of like this mix of exotic folk and psychedelic music and pop, all like in one umbrella, which is actually pretty interesting because I'm fairly new to your music as well. So if you could talk about the new album and the band and whatnot.
Well, the band has been going quite a long time, probably close on 50 years in different formats. It's been going a long, long time, but the lineup now is relatively new. It's obviously great having Bev on board. The songs came about basically from lyrics by Bev and myself and our guitarist Lee, who's a great musician. He plays most instruments, and that's how the demos all start. And then obviously we send it out to the band, and it creates a flavour of the song. We're very fortunate in the band. They've got fantastic musicians. I believe you've had Andy Edwards and John Jowett on your show before.
Yes,
well, they're
exactly.
Our other drummer in Andy, and John's fantastic bass player. So top class musicians. We have, as I mentioned, Lee on guitar, and we also have two beautiful ladies joining me. We have Kate McWilliam, who's been with the band a lot of years, 20 years, on violin, and Abby Brandt on keyboards. So they all sort of put their touch to the music. And I've got to say, I was late to writing. I have written quite a few songs, but late to writing, and I'm so proud and pleased with this album. It's just every track has got strength. There's a variety there. We've got some fabulous guests on it with us. We've got Chris Norman from Smokey doing a duet with me on one of the tracks. Andy Fairweather, yeah, fabulous. Andy Fairweather on doing a vocal again from Andy Fairweather Band and Eamon Corner. And it's just really exciting,
John Lodge from Moody Blues is playing on one track.
Wow.
Tony Martin, who spent years and years with Black Sabbath.
Yep.
Still got and that's one of the heaviest tracks on the album.
Yeah.
And we used to, ELO used Lou Clark to do all the orchestral arrangements.
Sure.
Lou sadly passed away at the turn of the year, but his son has taken over, Lou Clark Jr. And we've got strings on 3 or 4 of the tracks, and he's done some wonderful string arrangements. So yeah, it's
can't wait to get it out there. Really.
Yeah.
Its final mix is going on at the moment. A couple of tracks just to finish off. and we're hoping sort of September time to get it released.
And if the guys out there are interested and want to see more of Quill, we've got a TV show called Quill Connect, and it's quite, if you just click on www.quilluk.com,
Website.
that's the website, and then press on Quill Connect, and you'll see us, lots of us. Yeah.
I watched a couple episodes. It's like a variety program, which is great. It's like that we have the both of you kind of, talking a bit, and then you have some music clips and whatnot. Pretty interesting. I thought it was good viewing.
Well, we've done 3, and the viewing figures are going up and up and up. So we're just starting on the 4th one now. But it's kept us sane during all these mad times, lockdown, where a lot of people have, I'm sure over there too, have become very low and depressed and fed up. But we've been so busy with the album and the TV show that it's really kept us going. It's been
absolutely
good.
And of course kept us in touch with our fans as well, which is great, and making new fans, quite a few from America, so it's brilliant. Yeah, that's
good. So I've talked to a lot of musicians over the last year about how to handle the COVID situation, and I've spoken to quite a few who actually they wanted to release a new album a little sooner, or normally would have, but have held off to see if the COVID situation dies down a little so they can release the album and then go out and play some live dates. Is that the same for you, or did it just kind of happen that the album is being finished up now?
I think we wanted to coincide with some gigs. I mean, we start playing again in September. Everything crossed for full capacity, but we're still a little unknown. We've got a big date coming up on 21st of June where we're going to hear whether all the other lockdowns are sort of going to...
Our Prime Minister is going to announce whether we're coming totally out of lockdown in a couple of weeks' time. And hopefully we are. And then, as Joy said, we start gigging on September the 4th. So we need the album out then, really.
Yeah, ideally, yeah.
Do you have a lot of dates on the schedule planned so far? Or are you going to kind of like waiting to see how things go first?
We've got a few, but we're not pushing too hard just yet. We're concentrating on next year mainly. But we've got a few in September, and then October, November, December, a few. So just get us back into it again and get out there on the stage, doing what we love best.
Yeah. It's like everybody else. Recording an album is so difficult now because you have to do it individually.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've missed, is being, as a drummer, I like to play with the bass player and the keyboard player and the percussion, whatever, all together. But we've had to do everything, one by one, which makes it a long process.
Yeah. It's got to be difficult too, especially for playing live. Bands from your neck of the woods, who perhaps and maybe it's in the plans in the future or not. But I know like plenty of European bands who normally would play here in the States, but because of COVID and travel and all that, are very leery to go that route right now. So is that something that you would like to do in the not too distant future, given, that you're able to?
Excellent. Yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah, we'd love to. It's the same over here. Like, there's going to be a few festivals, but normally there would be American bands playing at our festivals, but not this year. But it's the same deal, hopefully next year it will be completely back to normal. Yeah,
that's what I hope for.
Fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Joy, you mentioned earlier that the band has been around in various incarnations for 50 years, which I wasn't aware of. I guess I didn't go deep enough in my research of the band. So could you talk a little bit about the formation of the band? Were you releasing albums back then as well? Or has this just been, or maybe you could just talk about the history of the band a little bit?
When we first started, 1978, we were doing quite a lot of writing then, so we were quite proactive. We got a record deal with Morgan Music in London. Didn't quite work out. I think we didn't concentrate enough on the writing. We were more of a jobbing band over the years. As I say, I came to writing very late. But we've had some fantastic musicians in the band over the years. We had Brian Tatler from Diamond Head. He played guitar with us for a while.
Wow.
And Jim Simpson from UFO. He played drums for a while. And we've had, but always had a lovely family sort of feel to the band. Everyone got on so well. We've always had a lovely spirit amongst the band. Say jobbing band traveling around in a Mercedes truck with all the aeroplane seats and touring a little bit into Europe. But yeah, we should have concentrated more on the writing. Came a bit late to that, and so glad that we have now.
It's good.
I was a fan back in the 80s. I used to go and watch Quill play. So
yeah,
it's nice to be in the band.
Well, we started off with a similar lineup to the one we've got now, although there's no other girls, with the violin and using ukuleles, a little bit Mungo Jerry. And then we went a little bit more soft rock for a number of years, similar to Heart. We had another girl keyboard player joined me then, and we sort of went back to our roots in the 1990. That's when Kate first joined, and we brought the violin back in again and went slightly Celtic. It was a great sort of live band for festivals and that sort of stuff. And we're morphing again into something slightly different again, as you say, with the sort of psychedelic-y sort of thing. I suppose it's well,
a lot more heavy rock. I mean,
yeah.
For instance, we do a version of from my Black Sabbath days. One of my favourite songs was "Heaven and Hell," and me and Andy, we do like a percussion drum solo thing, and we swap over. I'm playing drums, and then he comes over to me and he eases me off the kit, and I go onto the percussion. And I never thought Quill would play Black Sabbath, but it goes down a storm.
Absolutely.
Every time.
Yeah, got some good rockers in the audience. But that is a big part of the new sound, actually, the fact of having two drummers. It really is a massive sound and great dynamics. It is brilliant having these two guys. Yeah.
Well, Andy's a great drummer. You're into it, Andy, and he's a much more proggy style of, a bit like jazzier than me, really. I'm more, John Bonham style, really, and always have been.
Mm-hmm. It works well, really does.
Yeah,
and we like harmonies and all that sort of stuff too. So yeah.
The few videos I've watched, it's been interesting to watch you guys complement each other, because these days you don't see a lot of bands with two drummers, right? That's something that we see, the Allman Brothers come to mind, right? But I thought it was really interesting because you both have different styles, and I've been getting to know Andy a lot over the last couple of months, and I know he's a big into jazz fusion and prog rock, right? So been following you your entire career, and you perfectly mentioned it, big thunderous John Bonham style, right? So it's an interesting mix between the two of you, and I think it really works.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
Yeah, well, John used to come and watch me play, and then we became good pals, and I can't believe he's been gone so long now, but he was a wonderful, wonderful rock drummer, just the best.
Yeah, most people that I've talked to who had the pleasure of knowing John always kind of say the same thing. Just a guy who just had a zest for life and the biggest sweetheart, which, sometimes, you don't, obviously I never knew John, never met him, but that's not always like the impression you get just by seeing him play live or watching interviews or video clips, right? And hearing the crazy stories. But most people who knew him say exactly the same thing.
Yeah. And Robert Plant is still a good pal. We both support the same football team, Wolves. And Tony, my best friend in the business is Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath. We were at his house only last weekend, and lovely. He's retired from live work, but he's still doing stuff. He's still writing, and he's such a great player.
Bev, just so you know, Tony Iommi is like my number one musical idol. In my Black Sabbath is one of my favorite bands of all time, and just Tony's just like such an inspiration. And what was it like work? I'm kind of going around here with questions. So, what was it like joining Black Sabbath for the Born Again tour? Before we go back out, because I want to go back and talk about the move and stuff like that. But I mean, since we're on Black Sabbath and Tony Iommi, and what was it like being in the middle of that? I saw that tour live in New Jersey, and my two favorite bands of all time are Deep Purple and Black Sabbath. So for me, I remember being so disappointed when Ronnie Dio left the band. But then as soon as I heard that Ian was joining the band, I was like, it's like the perfect word, the meaning of the two, best things in my life coming together. And then, you hear Bill couldn't make the tour, and then you joined, and I was a massive ELO fan. I'm like, this is like the greatest thing ever. And seeing that show in New Jersey was like absolutely incredible. I'll never forget it. So what was it like for you being on that tour? How did you come to join the band? And, do you have any cool memories from that tour?
Yeah, absolutely. It was we did like two American tours and a European tour. We headlined Reading Festival in England. And it was great. Tony and I were good friends, and he asked me to join. It came as a bit of a shock. But I really wasn't, ELO weren't touring at the time. We'd pretty much packed up by then. And it was just great timing. And I only had a couple of weeks to learn the whole set. So there's a double live album, which I played over and over and over, so I could learn that. They're very tricky arrangements, Black Sabbath songs. They're going along and suddenly they'll stop and there'll be like a really quaint little interlude, and then back out again. So it took some learning, but once we got on the road, there was such good company as well. Ian Gillan is such a rock and roll animal. He's fabulous. He's Tony, I said, a great friend. Geezer Butler was a great guy to work with. And we had a keyboard player, someone else who's passed away since, a guy called Jeff Nichols. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was great company as well. And we had a nice British crew it got on great with. So no, it was 83, 84. I look back very fondly on those times.
So you were involved a little bit in the Eternal Idol, correct?
Yeah, I just played some percussion on that, really. Okay. I've always loved percussion, and now I get to play properly on stage with a massive percussion kit. And we swap over, me and Andy, about half and half nowadays, I think, drums and percussion. But I've always found percussion fascinating. You mentioned earlier some of probably my favorite American bands would be the Allman Brothers and the Doobie Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Chicago. They all feature so much percussion, and that's one of the great things I like about those bands. And it's great now that I can do the same.
Was there ever talk of you joining Sabbath permanently after Born Again, or was that always just kind of meant to be like what it was?
I think, well, and Ian Gillan, although it was great fun and the album was good, Ian went back to Deep Purple. Bill Ward, came back in for a while again, I think, and then I started working with ELO Part 2 all through the 90s. So, it was just nice
interlude.
Yeah.
Fun for everybody. Yeah. And it's a nice piece of rock and roll history, I think.
Yeah, but we're going to try and persuade Tony to play guitar track on the next Quill album. So I'm hoping he will. Yeah.
It was difficult this time with the restrictions because he couldn't get to the studio.
No.
So hopefully, yeah.
Well, Bev, if you talk to Tony, tell him one of his biggest fans, tell him I said this. We miss him, and we can't wait to hear something new from him because it's been too long already. It's been a while since that last Black Sabbath album, and we're like counting the days. It's like, come on, Tony, we want to hear something else. That would be really great to hear him on one of your albums.
Yeah, brilliant.
Indeed, yeah. Well, we'll try and get him
everything crossed again
to watch this program when it happens. Yeah.
And Tony, if you are watching, I'd love to have you on. So just let me know. So let's go back a ways. So you were part of the somewhat short-lived band The Move, who did a lot in the short span they were around, and proved to be now all these years later pretty influential to the kind of like British psychedelic pop movement. What was the scene like back in those days, and what was it like for you to kind of get your start in a more notable band in that particular band at that particular time, and how did that kind of shape the rest of your career?
Well, I feel so fortunate that since leaving school, I had a job uh, in a furniture store basically for 1 year, but I was in a band already by then, and for the whole of my life I've done what I love doing, and I started out with Denny Lane in a band called Denny Lane and the Diplomats, and of course Denny went on to form the original Moody Blues, and then Wings, of course, and some good solo stuff. I still keep in touch with Denny. He's in Florida at the moment now, so we're hoping to see him as well. And then when Denny left and the band split up, I was asked to be a founding member of this band that became The Move, and we had fantastic success in particularly in Britain and around Europe. We had 10 hit singles in the UK, including a #1, and I think 3 #2s. And Roy Wood was the first of 3 geniuses that I've worked with, I think. And the second one was Jeff Lynne, and the third one is Tony Iommi. So
great writers.
Roy Wood isn't that known in America, but if you check out his songs with The Move and with his other band Wizard, what a great songwriter, terrific.
Joy, then there's kind of like almost a weird parallel between The Move and Quill. I mean, 2 bands, highly eclectic, pretty hard to classify. Were you a fan of The Move back in the day?
Yeah, I was a little bit young, but yes, I was. Yeah. I didn't have you on my wall though, sorry.
No.
Yeah, they were a great band. I love looking at them, listening to them now, and some of the stuff I had never heard of. And it's just, they're such tight musicians. The sound was fantastic. Yeah. And the harmonies as well.
I was just going to say that the vocal harmonies are absolutely amazing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, really, really talented. And when you think that Trevor and Ace were so young, I mean, I think he was only 17 when he formed, wasn't he?
Trevor was, yeah.
It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
No, it was a great band, and we only came to America once, and it was too late. The band wasn't as it was a good band, but it wasn't the original lineup. It was a 4-piece, and we only did 3-week tour of America, but it's a memorable one because we did the Grandee Ballroom in Detroit with Iggy and the Stooges, and then we drove all Route 66 right across America and did 5 nights at the Whiskey A Go Go in LA. And we had some really cool people come to see us. The Doors came to see us, the Carpenters, Joni Mitchell, Graham Nash. So that was great. Fabulous. And then went up to San Francisco and did 4 nights at the Fillmore West, along with Joe Cocker topping the bill and Little Richard. And what a great bill that was. Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah, back in the days where concert bills would feature anybody and everybody, right? That didn't have to be the same style of music. And boy, times have changed, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did one of the great ones with The Move. We did about a 15-day tour alongside Jimi Hendrix, and Pink Floyd were on the same bill, and Amen Corner, who was the lead singer's Andy Fair with the Low, who's on the album, and the Nice were on. And it was such a mix of proper package tours that don't exist anymore.
Shame.
Now, do you think if I mean, obviously the answer is yes, but do you think if the Move were able to tour here more often, that you guys your stock would have risen significantly? I mean, that just seems the day you had to tour. You release an album, you tour, and if you want to break it in an area, you have to get out and play live, right, to support the albums.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think our manager at the time made a big mistake. Our friends, bands that we were regularly working with, like Hendrix and the Cream and Who. They all went to America and they all did very well. And I think if we'd have gone, I think we'd have done okay. Yeah. But hey, who knows?
It's part of history. So from there, a couple of you moved on and started this new band called the Electric Light Orchestra, which, if for those watching, if you've heard those first couple of ELO albums, very different from the albums that came shortly thereafter. So initially you had Roy and Jeff and yourself, and then the string players. And so, and obviously the most successful group that you've been with. So what was it like being in that band, and what do you attribute to the massive success of ELO? Very different band than a lot of the rest of the music that was going on at the time. And also, if you could tell us your favorite ELO album that you ever recorded on.
Well, we were great. Myself and Roy and Jeff, we were all massive Beatle fans. So the band was obviously influenced by the Beatles. And it was great that Jeff went on to work with some of the Beatles, particularly George. And what was good about ELO, we unlike the move, we really concentrated on America, but it was a gradual process. So when we first went over to America, we weren't really very well known, and we used to play small venues. And a great thing that happened to us is the band that you just mentioned was one of your favorites. We did a massive tour with Deep Purple as special guests, whatever. And Ronnie James Dio was on that tour as well, and we were second on the bill, but we got to play to sell out arena type venues, and they'd come to see Deep Purple, not us, and that was such great experience, and we learned how to play a big stage. So when we came to headline these places, which we did within probably 18 months, we knew what we were doing. So it was, and Jeff was such a great writer, terrific songs, and it was a good stage show. Particularly the Out of the Blue tour with the spaceship, that was a pretty amazing spectacle to see. And that probably would be my favorite. Definitely my favorite tour. But it probably would have been Out of the Blue or a New World record, I should think, would be my favorites. Yeah, those two are like companion albums. They're fairly similar, and I think they both have a similar vibe. Both great albums. Yeah, I've told this story here on the channel before, but I still remember being like, 10, 11 years old, and my father took me to a record store in New York City, and I saw this cool looking LP with this big colorful spaceship on the front. And I'm like, Electric Light Orchestra, I have no idea who this band is, but I, as a kid growing up, spaceships and superheroes and monsters and dinosaurs, anything with that I was totally into. So I said, and I had, my allowance money, and I was like, I think the double album was like $7.99 US, and I was like, I'm going to buy that. And I remember taking that home and opening that up, and it came with the poster, and, the liner notes had all of you guys listed and every single instrument you played on the album. And for me, as a very young music nerd, I was like, this is the greatest band ever. And that started my lifelong obsession with Electric Light Orchestra. And then I went back and started buying the earlier albums, which are a little bit different. I think I got Face the Music next, which is fabulous. On the Third Day, El Dorado. Then the next album came out, and then I remember buying Discovery, and I liked that, even though it was a little bit different. And then I remember getting those first two albums and thinking, wow, this is really different, and that kind of got me into exploring the move. So I kind of went from Out of the Blue backwards and then forwards once again. So Out of the Blue is just a magical album. It's one of my favorite double albums in rock and roll history.
Yeah, it is.
It was and we recorded it at Musicland Studios in Munich, in Germany, and that was on the recommendation of Deep Purple as well, and then we recommended it to Queen, and they've recorded loads of stuff there too. I don't know whether it still exists, but it was a very cool place. Yeah.
So the instrumental song on Face the Music, Fire on High, has always been a favorite of mine, and I'm sure you're probably aware. So here in the United States in the 70s, there was a Saturday afternoon like sport program that was on like late afternoon. I don't remember if it was Wide World of Sports or the other one, which the name escapes me. And that song was the intro song to that show every week. And I remember for years thinking, this song is great. Who is this? And then eventually I discovered it was ELO and their thunderous drumming. And
yeah, drumming wise, it's one of maybe my favorite ELO track for showing off on drums. Yeah.
Maybe we should do it. Maybe we should do it now live with a Quill show.
So that Deep Purple tour, was that on the third day? And that was, I'm assuming Elf was the
yes, that's what it was. Yeah.
Wow, that's a great lineup. I would have loved to have been old enough to see that, because I was probably just a little bit too young at the time.
Yeah, that was when David Coverdale, it was his first tour with them. And Glenn Hughes was on bass.
That was the Burn album. Yeah.
They were a very good band. Yeah. And I think that's still are. I mean, they go on forever, don't they? Deep Purple.
I've seen them like 5 times in the last couple of years. So yeah, they still put on a good show, and I love them. So Jeff, has resurrected ELO in recent years. Jeff Lynne's Electric Light Orchestra, which, I mean, music is pleasant enough. The albums are decent. For me, not quite the same without you, without Richard Tandy, without the strings. What is your take on Jeff's version of ELO? Were you ever asked to participate in that at all?
No, I definitely was not. And Jeff didn't want to tour for, it came as a surprise when he did start touring again, really. But I'm glad that he has, and his songs, and they should be out there being listened to. And I know Richard Tandy would be part of the band, but he's been very poorly, and I wish him well. I haven't spoken to him for a long time. I hope he's doing okay.
Yeah, it's the music is good. It's for me, it's not quite the same. I would love to see like some sort of a special show where he invites you to participate, and I think that would be great, because I think that to me, I listen to those albums and it's always missing one thing, and that's Bev Bevan's drums. And
Thank you.
I mean,
if Jeff ever asks me to, I will.
Okay, well, I hope that happens one of these days. So ELO Part 2, another band that you started after the demise of the first ELO. I actually enjoy those albums quite a bit. They never seem to really take off, though. Was that lack of label support or management or lack of touring? I mean, I thought that those albums contained some really, really good material. What are your...
I think they were okay. It just lacked... They weren't great songs. I mean, I co-wrote some of them. And the couple that I wrote with Phil Bates, One More Tomorrow and Whiskey Girls, I really like those songs. But I think they weren't strong enough, really. And maybe the management wasn't good enough, or record company support wasn't there. And yeah, in hindsight, I kind of almost wish I hadn't done it. I think I should maybe just done the Bev Bevan band and just... do some sort of things like that Bill Wyman did. That would have been. But hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Well, it's hard. It's hard because the ELO or Electric Light Orchestra name carries a lot of weight, right? So it's like I totally understood why you did it that way.
Yeah.
So we've got the new Quill CD coming out. When's the release date for the new album?
Well, there's going to be like a sort of advanced copies available at the gigs in September. Yeah. But the actual release of the album, maybe after that, I think.
Yeah, we just want to get the right people backing us, really, so that we make a bit of a splash with it,
It's I think it's such a great album. If I'm saying so myself, it'd be a terrible shame if it came out and people didn't hear it. We love people to. I think if people hear this album, they will love it, but it's getting them to hear it.
So if you were to describe Riding Rainbows, and the band in general to someone who has never listened to you, what's one sentence you would say to describe the
I
music?
don't know. I'm hopeless at this. You're better at it than me.
Well, we've got a great producer, so it's beautifully produced. We work very hard on the lyrics, and a lot of them are from the heart, the lyrics, and the musicians in the band are excellent. So everybody plays so well, and if you like rock music, or even soft rock, or even a bit of folk or country rock, it's all there, and I think you'll love the album.
Yeah, we have a pretty wide spectrum of viewers on this channel, and mainly the types of music we cover here is progressive rock, all forms of heavy metal, hard rock, classic rock. We do a little bit of folk and psych and jazz and jazz fusion. And one of the things that I love about your music, what I have heard so far, is that it pulls in from so many different places that I think it really doesn't matter what your main musical interest is. I think there's a lot to love from the music that you do. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the whole album. I can't wait till it gets released, and I'm happy to review it and talk about it here on the channel. We do every Wednesday, we do What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility, where we review all sorts of new releases and a lot of the genres we cover. So hopefully in the next couple of months, I'll be doing that on a Wednesday here on Sea of Tranquility. And
Right.
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
Really would.
I love the name of your show, actually.
Yes, me too.
Thank you. I actually didn't come up with the name. Sea of Tranquility used to be a print magazine back in the late 90s. And I was one of the staff writers, and eventually I took over. We sold the magazine to Progression Magazine, and we took everything to the web, became a webzine, and then I took it over in 2001. So I've been kind of like manning the ship it's our 20-year anniversary, actually.
Right.
So we have the webzine and we have the YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel has taken on a life of its own, as I'm sure you've seen. And that's kind of like my main focus these days. But it's so wonderful to have folks like yourselves on to just talk.
Well,
and Bev, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing some of your stories, and Joy, I can't wait to hear more of your music. And thank you both for coming. Any last words for our audience here, for your fans?
Well, it'd be great to get over to America one of these days. So
yeah, it would. I've got some friends in New York, so that'd be lovely. Yeah.
Okay. There's plenty of nice, again, as far as like nice intimate venues, there's plenty of them here where I live in the Hudson Valley, and of course, New York City, there's all sorts of them. So hopefully we'll see you here one of these days.
Well, that'd be great. And thanks. It's been really enjoyed it. Thank you.
So I want to thank Joy and Bev for spending some time today. Make sure you be on the lookout for the new album from Quill in a couple months, Riding Rainbows, and make sure you check out Quill Connect. There's some really fun programming on there, and also visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. Check us out on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, but of course we're here on YouTube all the damn time. That's what we say here all the time, guys, because I literally am doing this all the damn time. For Bev and Joy, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.